Welcome to the Time for Heroes podcast.
Hi, I'm Suzi Quatro, and you're listening to the Time for Heroes broadcast.
Thank you, Suzi Quatro. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. A new album coming out on the 26th of March and a tour supporting that starting 7th of April. So we're going to get into all that. But what I like to do at the start is go right back to the start. What was life like for a young Suzi Quatro growing up?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Detroit, and I come from a 5-children family, musical family. We were raised sort of in show business, really. I play classical piano, I play percussion, read, write, and play. Self-taught on bass and self-taught on guitar. Everybody in my family plays those instruments. Anyway, started a band when I was 14 with one of my sisters called the Pleasure Seekers, all-girl band. And then and we played constantly from 64 to 71. Then I got discovered by Mickey Most in Detroit. He saw the gig, offered me a solo contract. Boom, here I am from 71 onwards, and I'm still here.
So what was that upbringing like then? Obviously, being in a musical family, was that always your destiny?
It was, oh God, yes. I can't remember ever not performing in some way or another, really. You know, all the family shows and all that. And I played bongos when I was 7, and my dad would let me go to his gigs, and I'd play bongos in front of his trio, and always the family shows, and then starting the band. So I've kind of been a entertainer my entire life, to tell you the truth. Are you there? Yeah, good.
Right. So, yeah. So we were talking about you were playing with your dad's band, the Art Quatro.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So I started off very young. My first instrument was bongos, and I got very good at it. From 7, I had them. And then my dad used to let me go and jam with his trio. That was really good. Then took all the music lessons and everything. I was the first chair in the percussion section in the orchestra at school, which means I beat all the boys, which I quite like. Then I took classical piano, so I read, write, and play classical piano. And then at 14, we started an all-girl band, one of my sisters and me. And I was, because nobody else wanted it, I was given the bass guitar to play. So, and then from that time on, from 14, that's been my main instrument. You know, it was, as soon as I put it on, my main instrument.
So when you started with the Pleasure Seekers, what was the music scene like in and around Detroit?
Well, this was 64, so that was when it began. The British invasion was just starting, you know. There was Motown happening, which everybody from Detroit was hugely influenced by, white and black. It didn't matter, you're influenced. You had all your, I mean, we were young. I was only 14, so then we were looking at bands like the MC5, who I've covered on my new album, by the way, with Alice Cooper. Yeah. Iggy Pop and the Stooges,
yeah. Gonna get to that.
MC5, Mitch Wright and the Detroit Wheels, the Amboy Dukes, Grand Funk Railroad. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So there was a huge burgeoning music scene when I joined the band that was happening. So you couldn't have had better training than what I got being a Detroit musician.
Yeah, and that's just the thing with Detroit. Like, a lot of people, it's synonymous with Motown, but there's so much different musical genres. Obviously, yourself, Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop, MC5. You get the White Stripes laterally come through there. You
Kid
get
Rock.
Eminem. You get so
unbelievable.
Kid Rock.
The
There's
diversity.
So
And that's funny you mentioned the White Stripes, because I can never understand it. But he always cites me as one of his influences. Usually I can hear what the influence is. I don't get that one, but he cites me. And also Oasis. I don't hear that either. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, some of them I do hear, but some of them I don't. Anyway, I'll take it. I'll take the compliment.
Well, I'll tell you, if I ever get Liam Gallagher on the podcast, I'll be quizzing him on the influences. So the Pleasure Seekers then, with obviously your sister Patty, and then laterally Arlene joined as well. So how was that then, being in a band with your sisters, and did that help, like, the kind of gang mentality sort of thing?
You know, I grew up in a 5-children family, so when you have that many kids, it is kind of like an insular upbringing, really, because you don't need any outside people, because you got so many people in the home. Oh, and I was a loner too. At the same time, I was a loner. It was good being with my sisters. You felt, even though I was very young, I felt protected. because my two oldest sisters were older, and also my eldest sister by 9 years, Arlene, her first husband out of 7, don't go there, he don't go there, he managed the band. So it was kind of safe in an unsafe world, if you see what I mean.
And like the Pleasure Seekers kind of faded into
Yes.
Cradle. So what was the kind of the reasoning behind that? Was it just the style of music?
Yes, very much so. We were a very gigging-wise successful show band. I was Suzi Soul, had the top hat on, and I was the main front person. We did a Motown set, we did a British set, we did a Top 40 set, we did a Sgt. Pepper set, so we did all these different genres. And we played on a festival in Detroit that my brother had put on. He put us on the bill, and we did our show set, and we didn't go down very well. First time ever. We were very popular live, very popular. And we didn't, and it was all hippies with bare feet and tie-dye t-shirts and jamming. We didn't jam. We did a show. So we had a meeting, and we decided that we should change direction and really revamp the band. And I think we probably had to, So my little sister was brought in as main lead singer, which pushed me to the back. And she's a very good singer. And we started to write our own material. So the main front person, Susie, was then able to get excellent on her bass guitar, which is what I did, because we did a lot of jamming and all that. So in a way, it was a blessing that I took a 2-year gap from being the main out front person and just really mastered my instrument. But that's how that happened. And that's the band that Mickey most saw when he came to Detroit with Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell to use Motown Studios. And it was the second offer in 1 week. The second offer in 1 week that I got the offer to go solo. So that's the universe screaming at you, time to go. That doesn't happen. 2 offers in 1 week to go solo. Wow.
Well, I mean, around that time as well, you did backing vocals as well for Donovan on one of his songs.
Yes, well, when Mickey brought me over, he signed me as a singer-songwriter musician, and I landed here October 71. I had my first #1 in 73. During that time, I was writing, we were recording with a lot of good musicians. Mickey was not my producer. He's the first to say so. He just didn't know how to get me on record. And then I started a band in the UK, which crystallized everything. Once I had a band again, because I was a little bit out of water being over here on my own. No family, no band, no gigs. Felt weird. So once I formed that, everything started to make sense. The band was doing all my own material. We did the college circuit, then we went on tour on the first ever National Slade Tour. I supported Thin Lizzy and Slade. I had 20 minutes at the beginning of the show. Anyway, we found our sound on that tour, very much so. So that's how it all worked.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned Cozy Powell there. It's worth mentioning, obviously, that the podcast is called Time for Heroes, which is my favourite band as the Libertines. Cozy's son, Gary Powell, plays drums with the Libertines. A wee bit of connection there.
That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I was when I first got into the Libertines and I was digging into other kind of backstory, that was like one of the first things I discovered about Gary was his dad. So coming to England, how much upheaval was that for? Because obviously you'd be young at the time, so how much an upheaval was it coming to a different country?
Well, yeah, sure. It was a brave move to take. It was emotional, leaving my home, leaving my family, leaving the band, but it was kind of, there's just no way I couldn't go. I couldn't help it. I remember going into the Elektra offer real quick. The Elektra offer was to go solo, take me to New York, put a band around me, bass player in a band, and then make me into the next Janis Joplin. No. And Mickey Most said, take it to England, put a band around you, and make you into the first Suzi Quatro. So that's the offer I took. But I remember sitting in the bedroom at my parents' house, my house too at that time, and telling them that I was taking the English offer. And of course, my mom started to cry because I'm going to fly across the ocean, and I remember my father saying something to me that stayed with me my entire career. I've only just, with this new album, Freedom, because it's all about having no more baggage. That's what that song is. I've let it all go. I carried it with me all these years. My dad said to me, you do realize your sisters won't make it without you. That's That's a heavy duty to lay on somebody's shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, you'd be young at the time as well, so it's a lot of pressure to take
It was a
on
lot of
board.
pressure, but I remember he said that, and I remember looking at him for a few minutes, taking it in, giving him the respect. He's my father. And I remember going, Dad, I have to go. And that's kind of me.
Yeah, and that mindset served you all throughout your career. How is your relationship with your family now? Obviously,
Yeah,
it
sure.
must have been hard
Sure.
at the time, but
Sure.
how is it
And,
now?
I always say, I mean, first of all, we are all fine. We've talked about it numerous times and gone through the ups and the downs of the situation, everybody being very honest, as you are with family. I don't think there's a family existing in this whole world that if they were all in the same business and one got picked out, that there wouldn't be problems. This is natural. This is natural, So, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We dealt with it the best we could, and we're all fine. We're all fine. I mean, it's history now because it was so long ago, but it did take its time, and I did suffer from it for a long time. I felt guilty, and I'm Catholic.
There's nothing.
That's the first poem in my first book. It's called A Good Catholic Girl. My first poetry book, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to touch on all that later because you have been so busy throughout your career. Other than music, there is so much to touch on. But going solo with Rack Records, obviously Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman came on board. So how influential were they on your
Right?
your
Yeah.
writing
It
and
was
stuff?
interesting because, like I said, I wrote all my own stuff. I always have done. All the albums are mainly written by me. With 2 covers on every album. So Mickey said to me when we got off the Slade tour, he said, you guys have really got your sound together now. Everything's making sense. You got your style. You're doing everything's good. He said, I've just signed up these 2 new songwriters called Chin and Chapman. And what do you feel about me sending them to one of your shows and letting them hear what you do and then trying to write that magical 3-minute commercial single? I said, well, got no problem with that. Why would I have a problem with that? No problem. So they came and heard the show, and then Mike went away that very night, and he came in the next day with a demo of Can the Can. And he would say it himself. It was a terrible demo. Like, don't ever give Mike Chapman a guitar. You'll be sorry if you do. All he does is screech it, screech it, screech it. But the song was good. And we all went down to the basement, all the musicians in the band, and every musician put their little bit in. That came from the drummer, And we turned it into a magical arrangement. And when Mickey heard the finished product, he said, that's a number 1. And it was.
So as well as that, like your image. So how did your image start, and how do you feel have you carried on that image throughout your career?
The image, okay. I was always the step out of time, even in the all-girl band. Even when we wore the mini skirts, I had a top hat. Just always didn't want to be conform to anything or anybody. And I always was a tomboy, and I always have never done gender. That's me. So when it came time for the image, Mickey called me into his office, and he said, okay, this record will be out soon, and now we need to do image and photo session. So it was a discussion, just him and me. He said, what would you like to wear? And I said, leather. And he went, no. I said, yes. He said, no, but of course I get my way. And he said, okay, you can wear leather. And then he said, what about a jumpsuit? And it's funny because I'm very smart, but within my smart, I can be very naive. And I can be. Part of my charm, actually. My husband says it's part of my charm. So I didn't know that was going to be sexy. My first thought was, oh, great, I can wear leather and jump around and nothing will change because everything stays in one place with the jumpsuit. I didn't know. And if you look at the pictures, I know it makes me laugh too. If you look at the pictures, you will see that there's an innocent sex appeal in those pictures. I'm not trying to be, and every guy I talk to says that. It is an innocent sex appeal. Yes, it's sexy, but it's not like I'm in your face with it, It's kind of cute in a way. So anyway, I did, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know until I saw the photos back when I was in Mickey's office and he was looking at the contact sheet with the eyeglass. And he said, come here, I'm trying to pick up one of the pictures from your session. Come have a look. I looked and I actually remember going, oh dear. That was that. And then I saw it. But but I did not know. So, sorry, God.
Yeah, but it's just you. Obviously, like, looking at you, I mean, you're wearing the leathers at the moment on video, so that's just you, and that's obviously how you're comfortable.
That is how I'm comfortable, yes. And everything I do is natural. You'll find that out about me as we talk. I don't compromise. I won't be put in a box, and I am who I am. Again, going back to the album, that's what the whole album says. I am me. If you don't like it, there's the door.
So did you ever find, with that attitude and with that style, did you ever find any kickback in the industry?
No, I never present myself as, is this okay? I don't do that. I'm just who I am. And if as you get to know me more, you'll see I take no prisoners. You know, you don't have to like me. That's okay. But I'm not going to compromise for anybody. I'm not going to compromise myself for anybody. So because I have that attitude that it's not going to come back on me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But that's the sort of attitude that gets you to 75-year-old and still be doing
and still shouting about it. It's that great freedom when they keep asking me about it, you know. And when it's just funny because when I wrote that song, and the album's called Freedom too, but it's funny that we're talking about that. Richard my son sent me in the track, and we're writing songs for the album, and he sent me this great track, and I got my hip, as what we do, I put it on my computer, get my bass out, get my lyric sheet out, start singing and playing, find the melody, find the words, and it came to the chorus, and I remember going, freedom! I went, oh my God, that's it. It hit me, freedom. And then that wasn't even going to be the single. So strange. It was going to be Choose Yourself. And
right.
As I was, and I love freedom, but as I was listening to the mixes coming back and approving them, saying this mix is good, da-da-da-da-da, I couldn't get away. This is how it happens with singles. I couldn't get away from that song. And everybody loves Choose Yourself, which is an album track. But Freedom banged me in the face. Every time it came on, I went, that's it. I said, Richard, we're not calling the album Choose Yourself, we're calling the album Freedom, and it's the first single. I couldn't not do that way. It was obvious it had to happen.
And going back to like the start of your career, obviously you mentioned like kind of the Thin Lizzy and Slade tour. So how was that then? Like kind of starting it with those two bands, both massive.
Which bands? Oh yeah, that's
Thin
what I thought
Lizzy
you said.
and
Okay,
Slade.
yeah. Well, that was my first tour in this country with my own band, and it was before I had hits, so I was the new girl on the block, you know. Yeah, we all connected. We all connected big time. We ended up staying at Thin Lizzy's mother's hotel when we were down his end of the woods. I became very good friends with Noddy. I'm still very good friends with Don Powell. We even made an album together, Quatro, Scott and Powell, with Andy Scott and Don Powell. Andy from Sweet, of course. Yeah, we all hung out. And Noddy always used to say, every time I saw him, he'd say, I watched you fall in love with Lenny. That was my first husband, Richard's dad. And he said, I watched you guys flirting, you know. And Noddy always said to me, for years, he said, don't ever write a book. I said, why? He said, because you remember everything.
Noddy's some character as well. I've listened to him in a few podcasts, and
he's another Gemini. We're both Geminis, so you get that from us. We don't own an edit machine. We just...
And then like, after this tour, then this is when the kind of the hits start coming. The one that I most remember, obviously, I mean, it must have been my mum and dad playing it. I can remember
that's a good one.
But never, even up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't realise it was you. I always thought that was like Billy Idol or something.
Oh, that's. I don't think I'd like to see him in a jumpsuit, but he's a good-looking boy. But he's a good-looking boy. Yeah. Well, see, I don't do gender. You see, you've just proved it. I don't do gender.
Yeah. So I mean, like the hits, then, like, so all these hits coming. How did your music go down in America? Because I'm led to believe it wasn't as
it was. There was a 2-year period, and I am not the only victim of that. There's a lot of acts, 73, 74, that didn't have any hit singles in America. They and Mike Chapman explains it really well if you hear him on my documentary. There was just like 73 to 74. They didn't get the movement on the rest of the world. They didn't get it. They were stuck in, things like Fleetwood Mac and Linda Ronstadt, and that's where they were at. And that's all you ever heard on the radio. But saying that, it was over there from 74 onwards. I did my first tour. I had lower end of the chart hits. My albums charted, and they did very well. Just the singles didn't cross over for some reason. All Shook Up was in the charts. And so I started touring there in 74 with my English band. Did the Welcome to My Nightmare tour in 75, 85 shows. So that was huge. And I toured every year. And then, of course, what really made the difference for me big time, although I was selling albums, and actually I was named as the third best bass player in Playboy magazine in the world. How's that? Oh, I was proud of that. It was Happy Days. When I was in Happy Days, that was a #1 show in America in 1977, 78, and 79. And then that broke me wide open. Then it was like, oh, that's Leather Tuscadero. Oh my God, that's Suzi Quatro playing Leather Tuscadero. So then they got me. Then it was okay for a girl, I don't do gender, but then it was okay for a girl to be playing bass because it became cool, cool. So, and then, of course, Stumbling In, as you know, Stumbling In was a million seller there, big hit in America. And then they got me. But I didn't have the single success over there that I have everywhere else in the world.
I mean, that's still kind of prominent nowadays. Like, if you think of like the Strokes, when they kind of first appeared, they seem to be bigger in Britain.
It happens. Yeah, it just happens sometimes, I think they had a bypass to the rest of the world in 73 and 74. And honestly, when I went there, when I started to tour there, and every time I turned on the radio, it was that almost MOR, Eagles. They were in that frame. They were not even ready for punk yet. So they were a little bit, for the first time ever, America was a little bit behind the movements.
Yeah. And like you touched on Happy Days then as well. So like, was that your first
Yes.
acting role?
To be honest, though, I could have gone into acting. I always knew I could act. I had the instinct for acting. But I was in Japan. I toured there every year. And they called me and said, would you come over, fly to Hollywood after your tour and come and audition for the role in Happy Days? And I just said, what is it? They said, believe me, you want to audition for the show. So I went over and I got the part. And I found out in 1980, when I went back to say hi to everybody at Paramount, I didn't know this, that I had the second most fan mail after Fonz. And I'm still very much in contact with Henry and Ronnie. And of course, I had to let Henry know that. It was, had to do it. By the way.
And I believe that they offered you a spin-off show yourself as well, so you must have been doing something right with that.
Yes. I did a lot of things after that. They wanted a spin-off, but I'd given it 3 years, and I didn't want to be typecast for the rest of my life as Leather Tuscadero. And I'm glad I didn't, because I went on to do Minder, Dempsey and Makepeace, Midsummer Murderers, Ab Fab. So, yeah, I'm glad that I went on to do musicals. So I didn't want to be stuck in that role. I know Henry used to complain about it all the time, that he was always just going to be the Fonz, I mean, he doesn't now. Now when you talk to him, he says, I really appreciate that particular part. But at the time that I was in it with him, he said, God, am I ever going to not be Fonz? So I took that to heart. I didn't want, and if I got that much fan mail, that would have happened to me too. I would have been Leather Tuscadero for the rest of my days and never been able to move away from it.
Yeah, they took away
Absolutely.
from the music.
It would have taken away. I think they would have confused the character with the artist. And that's not good for an artist's career. So I think three seasons I did it, and then, okay, enough. I'd cemented my part, paid my dues, did the part, whatever.
And obviously another thing that you touched on that was kind of helpful in kind of getting that stand in America was the duet with Chris Norman, Stumbling In, which I was listening to the other day, man. Brilliant tune. And obviously it's had a resurgence through a TikTok guy, hasn't it? So how was that at the time? And then how is it all these years later with kind of getting that new twist?
It was, it came out of a gig. I was in Cologne recording at the EMI Studios, my If You Knew Suzi album, and there was an award ceremony. So we're all in Germany. We all went to the award ceremony, and then there was an after-hours party, and a lot of famous people there, naturally. And there was a band, and I wanted to jam, because I love jamming. I love just going up in a pub and just grabbing the guys. I love doing stuff like that. So I kept asking all these other famous people who I won't name, and all of them kept saying, no, we're not working tonight. I kept saying, but that's the point. You're not working tonight. Let's go up and so finally I grabbed Chris. I didn't ask him. I grabbed him. And I just dragged him up on the stage. I said, come on, we're going to sing. So we started to sing. Mike Chapman was there, naturally. He's producing me. And he looked, and he liked what he saw, and he liked what he heard. And he went home that night, and he wrote Stumbling In. And we recorded it with my band And Chris and I, this is why it created such magic. We did the vocal with two mics staring at each other. So you really get that connection. We are singing it live in the studio to each other.
What's the relationship like with Chris
I
now?
don't
Do
I don't really have
trust
anything to
each
do
other?
with him. I've seen him for a long time. No, he does his thing and I just mine. But
Yeah, when I was doing my research, I seen that I think he's got a new record coming out around
oh,
about
does
the
he?
same
Oh, well, good
time.
for him. I didn't know that because
Yeah,
Stumbling
yeah.
In was another hit all over again in '24, the techno version, million seller again. It's great because it made a whole new generation know my song. That's fantastic.
And like for into the 80s, you left the record label and kind of went independent.
Well,
Is that
don't forget I
correct?
had two babies in the '80s, '82 and '84. So first you got your whole year of the bump, you know. But then I was always '82. I took my daughter. She was born in September of '82, and by '83, I think February, I was back on the road. So I was always working. I did a lot of TV in that time. I had my own talk show. I did musicals. I was in the West End and Annie Get Your Gun. The first album I made then was actually I recorded it while I was pregnant with Laura, called Main Attraction with Chris Andrews producing. So I made an album then, and then I had another album that came out called Unreleased Emotion. And then I think Back to the Drive, I started to get totally back into it again. Totally back into it. That was on EMI, produced by Andy Scott. And yeah, that was a really good album. Yeah, it was a little bit experimental in the 80s. Like I said, I had two kids, 82 and 84, and I was touring constantly. A little bit not so busy record-wise, and then it got crazy busy again. So I had a hiatus from recording, but not from performing.
Yeah. I don't think a person in your character could have a break for the performance side of it, and it's just inbuilt in you, as you say, with your Gemini. And I mean, that leads us to kind of like modern day now, and obviously like the start of your career you spent working with your sisters, and now we're at this point where the last three albums you've made is with your son. So how does that feel then, working with your son, and how does that dynamic work?
It works fine. Don't forget I've had practice with that. My son hadn't had practice with that. So he came to me in 2019, and he'd been in bands since he's been 14. And he just, out of the clear blue sky, he said, "Mom, I need to write with you." "Okay, what you got?" So he showed me like 3 different tracks, and I said, "Whoa." I said, "I can work with this." Okay. So we went in the studio. We were really just having fun with 3 songs. We were making demos. And at some point, I looked up at the engineer and to Richard, and I said, "We're making an album." They said, "We are." And then it all started. It was great. But on the first album, Richard had a little bit of problem, which we talked about, and I put him straight. He said, "I'm getting blurred lines between Suzi Quatro and Mom." So I said, "That's understandable. You haven't worked with family. I have. So here's the clue, how to go forward. When I'm working, I'm Suzi Quatro. When I'm not, I'm Mom. Done. Done." And now he's totally got his feet with this new album. My God almighty. I actually had to call him and tell him every reviewer is raving about his guitar playing. And he's a very humble
Right.
guy. I called him up the other day. I said, "Richard, I was nearly getting jealous. The whole interview was about your guitar playing." And he said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "No, take the compliment." And he went, "Thank you. That's it. Just thank you." Okay.
Yeah. So this new album's out March the 26th, for a couple of weeks' time. How would you describe this album, the sound, the standout tracks?
Yeah, it purposely is. This is our third outing together. He also produced the Face to Face album with KT and played guitar on that. So he also did that. But this one, my son said to me he'd like to return to my roots completely. So he wanted to strip everything back, take the fancy out, and just make it in your face. So I said, yeah, let's do that. And that kind of whole album just went into that vibe. There's no horns on it, which I have horns live. There's not that much backing vocals. It's mainly a little bit of keys, mainly guitar, bass, and drums. And it is a straight, everything. If you came on board with me in '73, okay, everything you would have liked about me in that year is on this album, but it's today. It in no way sounds retro. That's what every reviewer has said. It sounds completely, up to date, but it is returning to that energy completely with the snarling and the screaming and the attitude and blah, blah, blah. And it all went along the same theme once we decided. and freedom came jumping at me. It's all about, like, choose yourself, things like that. Little Miss Lovely, which is very Gemini because it's complete dichotomy, positively negative, that kind of thing. Hanging Over Me, Here's Your Boots, Can't Let It Go, Nobody Held My Hand, Shakedown. Oh, and I have a duet with Alice Cooper, Kick Out the Jams, by the MC5. It's tradition since 73 that I do 2 covers on every album, and I'm now on album number 18. We did Going Down by Freddie King, great. And then Richard, for 5 years, has been saying to me, why don't you cover Kick Out the Jams? And I don't know why, but I've always hesitated. There's no reason. I love the MC5. I love the song. I just didn't hear me doing it until he said to me, Mom, Kick Out the Jams, call Alice. I went, oh. Alice Cooper. I said, now he's one of my good friends since I've been 15. I said, now I can hear it. Now I can hear it. 2 buddies from Detroit going back to Detroit, which is what we did, standing face to face, honoring a Detroit band. How much better can you be than that,
Well, like working with Alice Cooper then, is that the first time the 2 years have been on record?
Yes, actually, he covered one of my hits, Your Mama Won't Like Me, on his Detroit Stories album. And he wanted me to do a duet with him on that, but that didn't happen I can't remember what reason. I couldn't get away or whatever. And so I didn't do it, but he did a good job on it. And so this idea came up. I called him and I said, what do you think? Kick Out the Jams? In Detroit, he said, oh, yeah. So it seemed like 5 seconds later, we were in the studio we got a video, and it will be the 3rd single.
It's crazy, though, to think that all those years have went by, and then that's the first time you have...
Yeah, well, if you're going to appear together, this is the way to do it.
Yeah. So I see that comes out March the 27th, and a tour supporting it starts April the 7th in my hometown of Glasgow. 10-date tour. So what's touring like for you now as well? What sort of audience do you get? Obviously you'll get all the older fans, but do you see a younger audience coming as well?
It's incredible. Since 2019, when I started working with my son, and he sort of turned me back that way. Not that I was ever gone, but he made it prominent. We get, I'd say, without exaggeration, at least the first 5 or 6 rows are full of a lot of screaming girls. And then I see their mothers and their moms and dad behind them, and then behind their moms and dads, I see the grandmas and grandpas, So it's a huge, excuse me, it's a huge span of age groups, huge span. And I do a solo 2-hour show with an interval. So I do play the piano, I play the drums, I do a 6-minute bass solo. There's a part where I talk and show a few clips and stuff and blah, blah. So you really get royally entertained when you come, by the queen of rock and roll, I should say. If I'm going to say royally, you get entertained. It's my dream show that I've always wanted to do, the show I do now.
I enjoy that more as well. See, when you get the artists speaking, interacting. I went to see Billy Bragg a couple of years ago, just after lockdown. Probably half his show was just...
That's nice, yeah. I love doing that. Yeah, it's connecting. Yeah, we just said it, connecting. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
All the best for
Thank you.
All the best for the album, all the best for the tour coming up. Obviously, what you mentioned, you've done the TV stuff, you've done the theatre, and you kind of touched on poetry. So you've had
8 books.
8 books, poetry and novels and stuff. So how do you find the time for all that as well?
I'm always writing stuff down. I'm always thinking. I'm always creating. I am a communicator, a creator, and an entertainer. And that's the 3 words that describe me the best. I'm working on a screenplay for Grave Undertakings, which was my last novel. Very psychological book with tombstones at the end, tombstone quotes. You should get that. You'd like that. And I'm working on a screenplay for 2 movie part 1 and 2 of my life. So I got 2 screenplays going. I'm writing for the next book right now as we speak. I write all the time. I can't not have a project. I'm a typical Gemini.
And obviously, like yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was International Women's Day. So, like your influence on other female artists coming up. Obviously, you've mentioned KT quite a few times on the show, A Good Scottish Lassie as well. So, did you realise the importance of yourself and your guidance on other females?
Not in the slightest, and I'm always very honest about that. Again, like my image, I didn't get it. I didn't know I was being different because of my upbringing. I was not told by my dad, you're doing what? So I didn't know I was being different. I didn't realize how I was affecting people until I went to the premiere of Suzi Q, my documentary, which came out in 2019. And I was at the Regent Theatre in London, and I snuck in and hid on the side so they wouldn't see me. I wanted to feel the documentary with an audience. And I watched it for the first time all the way through, and up comes Debbie Harry, different points, Debbie Harry, Chrissy Hind, Cherie Curry, Joan Jett, Danita Sparks, Tina Weymouth, Kathy Valentine. I know I'm forgetting some. And all the way through the film, and they all said the same thing. I would not have done what I did had Suzi Quatro not done it first. And then I was in tears. I was in tears because at 69 years of age, that's the first time it dawned on me what I had done. And I got it. The penny dropped. Now I get it. Now I get it. I accept the accolade humbly, and I'll take it to my grave. But the whole psychology behind that is, in my opinion, it would have happened sooner or later. Okay, I mean, that's just life. Somebody would have done it. I did it. It fell to me. If it had been known by me that I was doing that, I would have been...
It wouldn't have been
It would have been...
natural,
No, I would have been manufactured. And that's why it worked, because I didn't know. So whoever it fell to, it had to be somebody like me, who just was doing what they do, going along for the ride, following their instincts, and all of a sudden, they've influenced all these women. Wow, that's fantastically pleasing and humbling, and I do take that now, but I didn't get it before.
Yeah, absolute trailblazer,
Yeah.
that's what you are.
Okay, I accept. Now, at 75, I accept.
It has been an absolute
Thank
pleasure
you.
speaking to you. Can't wait to hear the album.
It's really good. Well, you
I'll
can,
post links
you
for
can,
all
you know,
the-
Freedom's out for a while now, the single. Little Miss Lovely just came out. You can watch videos on YouTube. Have you heard Freedom?
Well, I haven't. I've been super busy with interviews.
Oh,
and
you've
that.
got to hear it. You're gonna absolutely love it.
But the thing is, well, with me, is I like to get the album at the time and
Go for the
full
whole thing.
experience.
Okay, but there are two good videos on YouTube, Freedom and Little Miss Lovely. And just remember, when you hear Little Miss Lovely, it's a Gemini song.
And obviously, you mentioned the documentary. Where can people see
You know, I
the
think it might be
documentary?
online,
Is
but
it
I'm
on
not
streaming?
sure. I know it's easily accessible. It's called Suzi Q.
So we'll post
Okay.
links for all of that. We'll post links for the album, the tour. Obviously, the tour starting April the 7th, and is it the Royal Concert Hall
Yeah,
in
do you want me to
Glasgow?
read the date? I'll read the dates, and then you've got them read, okay? Because I got them right here in front of me. Okay, Glasgow on the 7th, Glasgow Royal Concert Hall, 8th Gateshead, 9th Manchester, 10th Watford, 12th Oxford, 14th Southend, Cliffs Pavilion, 15th London Palladium, that's my 4th time at the London Palladium, 17th Bath, 19th Birmingham, and 20th Bournemouth, and that's the whole place. And dates.
Yeah, perfect, man. So that's that sort of album and tour. In the last part of the podcast, I asked my guests to pick 4 heroes to come for dinner. Why are they your heroes, and what would you cook for them? And they can be anybody you want. They can be dead or alive.
From any
they can
field.
be
Okay.
musicians, any
Okay,
field you
well, the
want.
first one that pops to my mind, believe it or not, and he always is Jesus. He's a hero, and in a very real way. I would have loved to have met him. Whether you whatever, whatever you
fascinating.
believe, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you. I mean, we know he existed. He was a prophet. But whatever your personal religious beliefs, don't really matter. What he must have been like, I would have liked to have felt his charisma. Fantastic. Okay. He's a good one.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley has been my hero since 5.5. And what I loved about Elvis was, and it's so funny, we have so much in common. When I hear interviews or see things that I've done, and I think I'm being original, somehow the universe will make me watch something on him, and he said the same thing. So there's a real connection there. So from 5.5, big hero of mine. I liked he was a very spiritual man. And I used to always keep a copy of Ilya Cabran's The Prophet by the side of my bed for years and years and years. And then I read that he did too. I didn't know this. And one time I said, like I did to you, every audience is a different animal. That came out of my mouth, okay? He said the same thing. That's nuts. So there's a real connection there. Let me think of who else. My mother. She's my hero. 5 kids, 9 orphans. If you had dirty clothes and you put them by the machine, they were in your room, folded and ironed within an hour. She was a
Brilliant.
mother. And she gave me my tracks to run down for my life. She's a Catholic lady. So even if I erred, which we all do, I'm not perfect, I'm no saint, you know the way back home. And I will always thank her for that. Always.
It must have been hard on her when you left.
I have a lady who I know in Australia who befriended, her and her mother befriended my mother by mail. They ended up going to America. She was a fan, her mother was a fan, and ended up staying in the family home. And they ended up connecting and, exchanging letters for many years. And this lady's a school teacher now. And she gave me on my last tour of Australia, my 41st tour there, a book that she'd kept with all the copies of my mother's letters to her. My gosh. And every other word said, I miss my Susan, but that's show business. That was the way she explained it. So yeah, she was one of my heroes. And I think my last hero, I'm going to pick Mickey Most. Because he...
Yeah.
Hi, Mickey. He gave me my shot. He believed in me. He supported me. He was there for me in every capacity. He wasn't my manager, yet he managed me, He wasn't my producer, yet he produced me. He saved my life many times. And we were connected. We were both Geminis. And I'll forever be grateful that he saw me, recognized my talent, and took me away.
Yeah. It sounds like he just understood you.
Oh, he got me.
Yeah, you couldn't be managed. That was the way he managed you, was by letting you have your way. And
boy, that's exactly correct what you said. In fact, I know we're getting to the end now. I was doing an interview, must have been 73, 74, so pretty early on, at REC. Mickey just happened to stroll in. He always used to check up, make sure I was okay. And the journalist, I think it was Melody Maker, turned to Mickey and they said, oh, so you tell Susie what to do, right? And Mickey went, nobody tells Susie what to do. You may strongly suggest. And that's so true. But I will listen. And if what you're saying goes in and makes sense, and if I respect you, I may do it, or I may not.
Absolute character, man. So these bunch of heroes, and what would you cook for them? Just to see how
I would cook my specialty, which is vegetable pasta.
Lovely. You can't go wrong with
well,
pasta.
I'm not a cook, but I am half Italian, half Hungarian. Obviously, the name is Italians, but I'm not really a cook. My ex-husband cooked wonderful. Now I've been with my current husband for 32 years, and the only thing he makes is reservations.
Susie, it's been an absolute honour
speaking
to you. It's been a brilliant time having this conversation. Again, I will reiterate, album Freedom is out March the 20th, and a tour to follow on April the 7th, starting in Glasgow. All the links will be posted, but all the best for what's coming up in the rest of the year. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. See you again. Are you going to Glasgow?
I'm not sure, but if I can get tickets, are tickets still on sale? We'll see. I'll try and get there.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, please contact me on the email timeforheroespod@gmail.com, or you can get me on Instagram at timeforheroespodcast. Thanks very much. We'll be back soon with another episode.